So the deal was we could come up with things we wanted to write about, and that is what we've done in the book. And Fi came up with the idea of a chapter about, well, it's essentially about not being a digital native, isn't it?
It is. It's about struggling in a world as an analogue human being that is now entirely digital. So it's called Forgotten Your Password, the Baroness of Dalston versus Digital Natives. Sorry.
It's fine, it's not COVID.
Okay, thank you. Can you just say that every
I
time?
will. I'll do that for you.
I'm so glad you did that warning thing at the beginning. That's calmed everybody down.
Okay, here we go. The following is a 7-minute read. Do you subscribe to sites and online newspapers and blogs that now tell you that? Ain't it just the strangest thing? I understand the need to have a time slot in mind if you're offering someone a Pilates class or instructing them on how to bake a cake. But how long it takes to read something? What happens if you want to break off halfway through and have a ponder? What happens if you need to move your finger under the words even more slowly while your lips catch up? What happens if you're super speedy? And does anyone look at their watch and think, actually, I've only got 6 minutes and 43 seconds, I won't bother? It's one of many aspects of shiny, tech-driven life that send me slightly potty. So much of our new online experience is mind-expanding and glorious, but some of it is hive-inducingly grating. This is a 7-minute read, stirs in me a teenage spirit of rebellion that whoever wrote it can't possibly want me to have. The article timers are probably closer to being teenagers than I am, so how very odd that it's me who feels the need to put 2 fingers up at them. But if I am past the age of teenage rebellion, why am I so full of annoyance? And what does a middle-aged rebellion even look like? You'd hope it contains something of the stuff that we've learned along the way, that it uses the powers of age and experience. And if you ask me what it is that I do actually know at the age of 52, the answers are quite simple. Don't ever buy a polyester jumper. No matter how good it looks in the shop, one wash and it's gone. Nearly every childhood drama can be solved by a tickle under the armpits, followed by a really strong hug. And although we're attracted to people for their strengths, it is their weaknesses that ultimately make us love them. So apart from the polyester warning, it boils down to 2 things, really, the power of love and the power of silly. So how might we fare if we tried to use these powers as weapons in the constant slappy little 50-something fistfight that I appear to be having with a modern world that's crept up on me? Well, I'd like to start by gifting to you my all-time favourite small rebellious act, which you can undertake without leaving your house, manning a picket line brazier, or even signing a petition. And it lies in the drop-down menu of titles you get every time you make a purchase online or register for some service that you may or may not need. I used to just obey orders and was always just Miss F. Glover, but then I realised you can choose to be whoever you like. Some only offer you the choice of Mr., Mrs., Ms. and Miss, but some are luxurious, ranging from Duke and Duchess all the way through to Monsignor via a couple of captains. I've seen a cardinal up there. Don't go worrying that there's some kind of code of naming and shaming that will immediately render your custom void. No one gives a monkey's what you say until you get to the payment page. And so over the last few years, I've used and abused the options available and then taken small satisfaction in receiving parcels from bewildered delivery drivers addressed to Brigadier Sir Field Marshal Glover, Baroness Fiona of Dalston, and John Lewis only knows me as Miss Fed Up O'Forms. There's also a train to see my mum in Swindon on which the operator's page comes up as soon as I log on. It addresses me by the name I once put in. It should say, Welcome Fi. But whenever I sit down in a cramped, backward-facing seat for the heady 53 minutes of fun time travel through suburbia, it says, Welcome Sucker, and it makes me happy every time. There's way more on that chapter, but then it hands over to Jane's response.
Okay, here we go. What the good Baroness of Dalston needs to understand is how much harder all this is for me. She is merely unsure of her place in the digital world, but I know I simply don't belong here. I am 5 important years her senior, and they really count. I still jab at a keyboard. I'm tentative, even fearful. I will never sail across the quays, trusting in it all, totally at ease. I endured computer studies, 40 minutes a week, in my last year at school in 1981. The lessons consisted almost entirely of some confusing blether about binary numbers, delivered droningly by somebody who didn't have much faith in what they were saying. It was all entirely theoretical. The school didn't have any computers. The closest I had to a handheld device was my invaluable calculator. I remember showing it to my grandmother, then in her late 70s, who was quite nonplussed by it. "You're allowed to take this into the examination?" Like Fi, I've had to turn to my own digital natives to assist in the home. I'm not saying they were solely responsible for setting up the parental controls, but they played a part, certainly. I too have had my moments of gentle subversion. I was briefly the very Reverend Jane Garvey with British Telecom. I must say it did feel pretty good. Take that, telecoms giant with annual profits of £22,905 million. Like almost every member of my just-about boomer generation, I rail against change and talk wistfully of the high street while ordering doormats and catnip toys on Amazon. I accept all cookies at least 8 or 9 times a day, without ever really knowing what that means. Although the language strikes me as moronic. Cookie, for heaven's sake. Why is this stuff both so infantile and so toxic? Of course, the modern isn't new. Somebody somewhere must have been the very first person to be really good on the lute, for example. I say person, but I think we all know it will have been a man with time on his hands. And I dare say his family and friends will have missed the relative peace before he got twanging. If I live long enough, I may witness my grandchildren casually 3D printing a submarine with a squadron of avatars, while their parents reminisce about Nintendo DS. Will I ever see moving pavements? No, not at this rate. They are the elusive unicorns of the future, promised for as long as anyone can remember, but still stubbornly confined to international airports. Algorithms have me sewn up. They know I like elasticated waist trousers that look as though they're not elasticated. They know I'm single, and I hear regularly about great funeral plans in my area. In all honesty, our generation's getting off lightly here. 30-year-old women are blitzed by advertising by the egg freezing industry. I've just got my own mortality to contemplate, but they're under pressure to produce even more eager consumers.
Jane, I genuinely have a friend who is a lutist. It is his full-time job.
A lutist?
Yeah, he plays the lute, full-time.
He's not here tonight.
He's not, no.
Okay.
No, I don't know if he'll be watching.